Okay, everybody, welcome back. So now we are talking about rating issues, and we've got Andrew here to tell us everything he knows. Thank you very much.
These rating issues last week, and we've raised 8 issues with you at the briefing, and we've had indicative direction to support 6 of them through to the draft LTP. The 2 that weren't supported for going to the draft LTP were land value rating and a targeted rate for Te Kaha. Now, just to clarify what it was that didn't get support with the Te Kaha targeted rate, we had suggested to you a rate that would target those who benefit more from the stadium. So we'd looked at the possibility of targeting central city business with a higher rate and potentially the accommodation sector. So it was that extra funding from those who benefit more that got the no. What I am hearing is a keenness that Te Kaha be sort of separated out. This is the giant 3% sign on top of the stadium, and we have undertaken to come back to you on that with a range of options, because a separate sort of rate for transparency is one option, but we think that there are other better options, and we'll come back to you with what those are.
When we say separated out, it's really perhaps just in the consultation document for clarity for the public. No. Do you? Okay.
Yeah, and it needs to include both the operational expenditure that we're going to spend every year, as well as the operational paying back debt kind of expenditure,
What
the interest.
you understood as well?
The
Yeah.
CD would have those figures for the Kaha anyway.
Yeah.
It's significant enough.
So just so on the right track here, I thought it was just for the cost of Te Kaha.
Yeah, not the operational
Not the
cost.
running of it.
No.
Because we've got no idea what the running of it is. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Just when that happens.
Right.
Okay, so carry on, Andrew,
Yeah,
please.
okay. If I run through the 6 that have had indicative support, and then maybe we have questions and discussion at the end, is that?
Yep.
Okay, so our first one is to extend the current city vacant differential. At the moment, we charge a higher general rate differential in the central city to vacant land. There is an accompanying remission. Essentially, if that land is kept in a tidy state, it will get a remission of the extra amount that it pays in the differential. So we've got, at the moment, the central city vacant land differential, and we want to extend that to 4 suburban commercial centres, which are New Brighton, Littleton, Sydenham and Linwood Village. Those areas have been chosen because they've got a substantial amount of vacant land, and that was supported. I think we had strong public support for that in the last annual plan when we consulted on it at a high level. The second one is some changes to the way we provide remissions to charities. Essentially, at the moment, when when a charity qualifies for a remission, it essentially gets 100%. I say 100%, it's 100% of the general rate and 50% of targeted rates, but I'm simplifying that to 100%. So, they get it all at the moment, automatically, if they qualify. What we're planning on doing is moving away from that way of operating to provide a graduated scaling of remissions that focuses on the financial need of the charity, the needs of the community and council's strategic priorities. And we would provide a transition period. We wouldn't, hit anyone on the 1st of July 2024, but there would be a transition period to ease the journey for any particular charity.
For any reductions.
Sorry?
For any reductions.
for any reductions. Yeah. The third one is visitor accommodation in a residential unit. So think Airbnb type properties. We're going to rate those as business. Now, at the moment, our rating policy says we rate, all businesses, obviously, as business, including what we call travellers' accommodation. But our issue is that we don't really know when a property is acting, as an Airbnb type property. We've recently had a change to the district plan, and we're now, in theory, getting information as to who is, which properties are providing Airbnb type services. So our proposal is from the 1st of July 2024 to rate as business any residential property that's used for unhosted short-term accommodation for more than 60 nights per year. Now, the 60 nights is the same threshold as in the district plan. So if you are providing the service for more than 60 nights, then you've got to have a consent. So we're only going to rate people as business if they, have to get a consent as well. And anyone providing hosted short-term accommodation, they'll be rated as business if they're, predominantly used for that purpose. The fourth one is we'll merge the active travel targeted rate into the UAGC. They're both, levied at the moment on SUIPs, this kind of essentially per rating unit. This will have no impact at all on anyone for rating. It's really just a simplification of our rating system. Number 5 is merging the heritage targeted rate into the CV-based general rate. That at the moment we are recovering rates for on that rate without actually having expenditure to fund. It's kind of gathering revenue in advance of the actual spending. Now, if we merge that rate into the general rate, that will mean that we're not funding in advance that spending, and that will mean a saving of 0.3% for ratepayers next year. The last one is something to do with rates postponements. At the moment, we automatically provide rates postponements on application to anyone over 65. It's not widely taken up. I think last time I looked there were 10 of those, which is not a big number. We just want to move to not automatically providing it and instead sort of assessing it on a needs basis. We'll do that in a generous way, but I mean, for example, it's confusing if we have multiple generations owning a house. One of them's over 65, others are under 65. It's all just a bit confusing as to whether the automatic over 65 applies. So we would, assess that, as I said, on need. That's the 6. I'm happy to have some questions.
Thank you, Andrew. Pauline?
Thank you. Just for clarity, on your rates remissions for charities, and you're saying that, it'll be basically assessed on a case by case. But just for clarity, you're not saying you either pay 100 or nothing. People
Correct.
could land, charities could land somewhere in between according to where they qualify.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sarah? Oh, Jake and then Sarah.
Just on the Airbnb proposal, the idea is that they would be rated the same as what a commercial enterprise would. So it just fixes the discrepancy. It's not a specific. Yep. Yeah, perfect. And secondly, in terms of feedback, I would like to look at the Te Kaha. I was one of those that sort of didn't want to look at it, but I've changed my mind. I just think that given that there's a value uplift to be captured, presumably from the stadium, then that it seems fair that those that benefit from that should contribute. And if we don't put it in now, there'll never be an appetite to put it in, so let's look at it now.
It would be quite good to get direction on that one, broadly. Yeah.
Sorry, just for my daft head, could you explain that again for everyone that's listening?
So, at our briefing last week, we talked about essentially two broad options for recovering more money from those who benefit from the stadium. We talked about, central city businesses and, the a kind of a starter for 10 was, like drawing a 2 kilometre circle around Te Kaha. But I mean, you could do anything, someone said to me, well, that goes a little bit too far east potentially. That was one option. Another was, the 2 kilometre circle and charging businesses a targeted rate, within that area. Another option was looking at the accommodation sector, thinking that the accommodation sector may benefit from people coming and staying the night, attending a concert or something like that. Both those options, we discussed them, and the message that I got from our briefing last week was the timing wasn't kind of quite right on it, and kind of pause on that concept.
Yep, that's the impression I got. Thank you. Sarah, please.
Thanks. A couple of things on that. If we did choose to go ahead with a targeted rate either on accommodation or businesses in the central city, is it possible to do that as well as separating out the Te Kaha part in the rating bills, or does that make it too complicated?
I think it does make it quite complicated. I wouldn't want to say it's impossible. I would need to think about that. I haven't done a lot of thinking about it because the direction that I got the other day was, no on it, but I'm happy to do some thinking on that.
Okay. So that was just a follow-on. So my actual question is, we did also discuss the other day the potential and options around some sort of climate levy to help fund the works that are going to be needed for adaptation with sea level rise and other impacts. So this isn't up here. Is there more work to be done before that comes back to us?
Yes is the answer.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
but there will be work coming back to us on
Yes, there
that
will be.
in time
Yep.
for the draft LTP. Great, thank you.
Tim?
Yeah, just with regards to the 2K around Te Kaha,
Yes.
I'd like to see some examples, but also I'd like to, if we are going to decide around this, it'd be good to see, say, that it's up and running for at least a year to 18 months to see what the value is, and then go forward on that, because I think it'd be unfair to do that before we know what's actually happening in the lie of the land.
So just to clarify, you're saying you would like to see a pause on a rate to recover from the beneficiaries in the 2K circle?
Yeah.
A pause
Well,
until the
It
stadium
hasn't
is...
happened, so it'd be unfair to start rating on something that hasn't happened yet. And our businesses in town, we've been told by Central Business Association and others, they have struggled with COVID, etc. So I don't see we should be kicking them in the teeth now as they recover. So I think that's really important. So I think we should just give them a wee bit of time, but also to see how the land lies. Could be absolutely fantastic and exploding with joy. And yeah, absolutely, I'd be more than happy, let's look at it then. But at the moment, I think we should just pause it and plan for the future, plan to do it, but let's just see the ground we're on before we do it.
Victoria?
Thanks. Just following on from Tim, I repeat those sentiments around attracting in a city business, and I'd like, the pause is a better idea. The question for me, though, is trying to understand, are you targeting all businesses or just the hospitality and accommodation type sector? Because there's other businesses that happen to be within your 2 kilometre radius that actually may not be impacted. So I'd like to understand whether it's all or who or how or...
I guess I put two, proposals forward. One was all businesses, so acknowledging that some of those may not, particularly benefit from the stadium. The other option was the accommodation sector. I guess the issue with that is, there's plenty of things that happen at the stadium that don't involve accommodation in the central city. The Crusaders game type thing is the typical example. So, look, there's been no perfect, design prepared. Those were two initial starters.
Okay, yeah.
My second question, if I can, thank you for that, is in relation to the rates remission for the charities. I'm just anticipating further administrative work around that. Is that something that your team could absorb within current resourcing, or are you going to need extra staff and help to do that?
We believe we can do it within existing resourcing. We've been involving our grants team, John Fulsell and his team, and John has signalled to me that the work that his team would do in it could be done within his existing budget. What do you call it? Yeah, resourcing. Yeah.
So I really need to move on. We've got Aaron and then Celeste.
Yeah, just around the targeted rate around the stadium, I thought we worked under a system that if we build something or because of council or whoever, a part of town becomes extremely popular, the prices go up and we get them because the value's higher, so
Yes.
it rates higher and we get more money off them.
That's correct. Yeah, I
But
think
so
there would be
is this not a double dip?
So, look, that is a factor to take into account, is that you build any facility like that, it will impact on capital values of businesses in the surrounding area, and at the next revaluation, you might expect those to increase more than other parts of town or something like that, for example, and that would lead to them paying more rates from the next revaluation.
So if it is a popular site attraction, we get more money.
It's the whole thing of we don't get more money, but we recover.
Redistributed.
Yeah, redistributed.
Okay, and then the other one is the residential property hosted short-term accommodation. Can you just clarify what that is? Is that having a border?
No.
Isn't that hosted accommodation?
So a hosted accommodation, would be having a border, but we're looking at short-term accommodation.
What, say your border doesn't stay long?
Yeah. Oh, well, I would say, I can't imagine us looking at one border and how long did that one border stay. It's more how you're marketing your property,
So if you've got a bedroom at your house and you rent that out short-term, then you'll pay...
Then, let's put it this way. If you're for hosted accommodation, we are looking at the predominant use of the property. If it's one bedroom, it's probably not predominantly being used for that purpose.
Right.
We can, in theory, split rate properties. So in other words, you'd get QV in and you'd separately value the bedroom. But
Right.
as you can imagine, that's not something that,
We do a lot of...
we do a lot of. Yeah.
Right, okay.
So,
You wouldn't do for one bed.
no, you wouldn't.
Okay, now, hang on a minute. Celeste has signalled she's going to put an amendment in for a targeted rate for Takaha, okay? We can worry, let's see how that forms in time for February 14th. It has got nothing to do with what we've got here in front of us at the moment. Fair enough, if it goes in, it goes in. I, myself, don't actually, I seem to go along with Tim. But anyway, let's get what's in front of us done, and the amendment from Celeste will come in. So we've got it, we've really got to move on. So is everyone generally happy with what they see in those 6, or do you want me to do them separately? The whole lot? Everyone? Good, see you later.
Great, done.
So there's two questions.
So, Celeste?
Thanks, just two quick ones. Can I just clarify, the targeted rate was for CapEx and OpEx, right? For the Takaha. That was the briefing.
I thought it was, but...
Yeah.
Well,
I've got the...
it's undecided. It could
Okay.
be.
So that would be, we're currently rating for CapEx. Well, we will be, so just want to clarify that. So when you come back, can we get a bit more information about that? Thank you. And the second one is around, have we looked at congestion charging? Are we looking at that? In terms of revenue opportunity for the council.
Sorry, congestion of what?
Uh,
Oh, the roads.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's not part of this, I don't think.
Yeah,
I'm
not
sure
that.
it's
I haven't done
Okay.
anything.
No, separate thing. Okay, thank you. Yeah, lastly, Yanni.
Yeah, thanks. I wasn't happy with the active transport going into the UAGC. So, are we going to have options around that just going into? Are we going to have options around that just going into the general rate based on capability?
Yanni, if you want to.
Right.
Okay.
And just not sure where we got to with a ticket levy. So, is that work happening or? Yeah, like for existing like venues that we've got in the city. So we're not doing one, basically.
So I think, Councillor, that when we talked about this last week, there's a range of work streams that are underway. When they're completed, they will be reported back to you, and I will follow up just to get a sense as to what the timing is on those.
Exactly.
Okay,
what
and
we
the
heard
other
this morning.
thing, like the events that we're having on Hagley Park, where I think, is it correct, people are paying $1,700?
Yanni, it's got nothing to do with what we're doing at the moment.
So there was a question, and it was answered on the Hagley Park costs. So we can resend that to you if you like.
Mm-hmm. So,
Right, okay.
Andrew,
thanks.
we've got everything. I think you've got
Yes.
the wander along and
Thank you very much.
good on you.